Hey there. So, whilst I haven't really made it apparent on this channel, I am a huge fan of Rimworld, and when Tynan announced or at least hinted to a new Rimworld expansion showing off key artwork, I just had to make a speculation video regarding all of this. So for the duration of this video, we'll be covering key artwork that he's posted and just kind of examining it and going over my thoughts of where things could be going. So, to get right into it, for one, there is archaeology, and there are a few kind of examples. For one, this kind of samples on her jacket. There's this sort of mix of technology on it, which, she kind of seems like a peaceful agent, and the large textbook also plays into that kind of fantasy. She seems very kind of friendly, non-combative character. But there are other things. There's an argument of alchemy, given the gold block within her hand. The samples could then be vials or some sort of liquid potion, some kind of medical paraphernalia. If it's more vials and medical paraphernalia, then it works well with the pen and sort of knife and the white coat that she's wearing. If it's more potions, then it lends a little bit more credence to something, maybe wizards and spellbooks, this ancient sealed spellbook, perhaps improvements on sidecasting, something like that. It's been a while since we've really looked into that. Either way, it feels pretty locked into the idea of adventuring, wandering, or caravanning. This doesn't, to me, really seem like an expansion maybe on the base per se, but maybe something that we find in the world. Maybe you find archaeological sites which perhaps have something to do with research, new researches, new kinds of sidecasts, old civilizations or something. Probably something to, again, draw us away from simply having one kind of base, that kind of thing. Something that's a bit more get out in the world, experience the world, maybe just an overall world revamp, which people have wanted for a while. To that end, we could see a new faction maybe based around such, some kind of archaeology or old world guild. That could really go somewhere, I think. That could be something to kind of work around, using some of the systems that have come in through the game in the last two expansions, and blending everything together a little bit more. It could be, on top of biotech and the previous expansions, the kind of last effort to really smooth over Rimworld in this newer direction and more polished direction that's been going recently. And hopefully just maybe improving the idea of moving from point A to point B, which currently just isn't very viable as a gameplay point without heavy modding. In-world travel in World is just, it's not very good at all. I mean, most people these days probably use Giddy Up or the caravan, not the caravan mod, the vehicles mod, which works much more to really making that kind of a viable thing. Before then it was SRTS. Transportation in general in Rimworld has been pretty bad, so something that improves that could really go far. But moving along, maybe it's something more to do with occults and discovery. Still a kind of archaeological old world thing, but more leaning on that wizardy spellbook aspect. With these Cthulhu-like tentacles that are spilling out of her back, could be something to do with like a alien type or a xenotype that she has, but we don't know. There is some credence to it being something like that, at least with this book. It's strange that this book is locked. It seems a little bit older, but there's a lot going on here. It very much seems like a mixed character, which makes sense given how the biotech character was portrayed. The biotech character was very alien meets tech, all sorts of things all in one, with the children and everything involved. But this one kind of gives the impression of a doctor, whether it's medicine or the sciences that maybe it's doing. Hard to say. The white lab coat definitely feels like it's something, but it's very under everything and very downplayed. So, but I'll go in and say the key themes that I've at least noticed. Archaeology with the sample vials. The occults with the tentacles and the spellbook could be like ancient texts for madness. Adventure just feels like a theme. They kind of feel like an adventure, and they're sort of Indiana Jones-esque in my mind. And then alchemy with the gold block. I really feel like alchemy, it's a missing sort of crafting element to this game. So maybe we can expand drugs. The drug lab is very, very underutilized, really. Sciences, just something in general to do with the sciences. This really feels less likely because biotech, I think, kind of carried that pretty well with how it did the mech stuff, but we'll see. And then there were two other things which I'll admit were not particularly my own opinion, but I saw them on Reddit and I want to mention them. There was a point about it possibly being a trade expansion, because there is a calculator and the spellbook could instead be a ledger, or like not a archaeological textbook, but rather a ledger of missives and coin and such, and that's why it's locked up. Which I could see, some kind of merchant expansion could be interesting. That is again another aspect of the world that hasn't really been touched too much. And the other theme was just a plain nautical theme, maybe something to do with ocean travel just because of the tentacles. Now this is kind of far-reaching, admittedly, but I could see it. I mean, the sea in terms of Rimworld has basically been untouched. There's pretty much nothing really going on there, so some kind of expansion with that, I could see something happening. It's not out of the realm of possibility. They're probably the least likely so far. Regardless, I'm really excited just to see what builds off of Biotech, which has, in my opinion, just been the most successful and best kind of imaginative push forward for Rimworld out of the expansions to date. So here's hoping that whatever comes out of this update will be furthering that, and also hopefully furthering performance improvements and quality of life that modders have already done, and just generally improves the game. I will say though, definitely feels like we're starting to stretch base Rimworld as it currently is. I don't know if they can really improve the base game too much in terms of like performance quality, because if you're like me and you've packed your game full of mods, Rimworld really does start to fall apart pretty quickly. Not really going to be saying like where's a Rimworld 2, but something that could like improve the overall quality and keep FPS going really feels like that's needed. I don't know if it's an engine thing, I don't know enough about Rimworld, but I'm really hoping that as new expansions come out, we maybe push that forward, maybe really work on performance, because that's definitely needed, and I think the player base will probably agree with me on that. Still, I don't think we're going to have too much time to put in too much speculation. Going off the pacing of the last expansion, it wasn't very long after the teaser that it was released. Just for Biotech, I believe it was around 18 days. So it's possible that we'll be playing this by the end of March, maybe something like the 29th, the 30th, really not that long, if trends stay. So let's see, we'll see what we start to see. I'm assuming there'll be a trailer probably before that, but I haven't seen anything as of this recording. We'll see. I would honestly just keep an eye out on Tynan's Twitter. He does like to talk about this kind of thing. But what do you think? Is there something that I've missed? Something that really got you excited in the imagery? Something that you think is just, nah, this is the theme, this is it, Kate, it's this thing that she's wearing, or this thing in the background? Let me know. Just write down in the comments, and I'd be interested to see what you all are excited about. But thank you for watching, and I will see you again in the next video.